In the silent expanse of eternity, before time was given a name, and before the first star was kindled in the velvet dark, there existed a question. It is a question that has echoed through the corridors of human history, a profound and unsettling whisper in the heart of every believer, every seeker, every soul that has ever looked upon the suffering of the world and asked, why? Why does an all-powerful, all-knowing, and infinitely good God allow his greatest adversary to endure? Why is evil given a name, a face, and a legion, permitted to walk among us, to sow discord and to harvest pain? God, who is holy, who is righteous, whose very nature is the antithesis of darkness, could extinguish this shadow with but a single thought. A word from the divine tongue could unmake what was made and restore a silent, untroubled peace. But he did not. He has not. The enemy, Satan, still lives. To understand this divine patience, this seemingly inexplicable tolerance, we must not look to the world as it is now, but to the dawn of all things. We must return to a beginning so glorious it defies mortal language, to a realm not of matter, but of pure spirit, light, and sound, the celestial court of the Most High. Here, in this realm of unfading light, the will of God was the air that was breathed, and his glory was the symphony to which all of existence moved. And in the heart of this perfect harmony, God desired to create something extraordinary, a testament to the sheer, unbridled joy of his own being. From the very heart of his eternal thought, the Creator conceived of a being unlike any other. He did not merely speak this angel into existence. It was as if he poured a measure of the dawn into a form of divine fire. He was named Lucifer, the morning star, the light bearer. His very name was a promise that he would be the herald of God's own magnificent light. He was a cherub of the highest order of angelic beings, crafted to exist in the immediate, blazing presence of the throne of God. Perfection was his essence. His form was adorned not with earthly jewels, but with living gems that pulsed with the light of creation: sapphire, emerald, and diamond, each one a note in the song of his being. Wisdom was not something he learned. It was woven into the very fabric of his spirit. He was the conductor of the heavenly host, the leader whom all other angels admired and followed. When he moved, it was with a grace that sent ripples of light through the celestial seas. When he spoke, his voice was a chord of such beauty that it inspired deeper worship for the one who had created him. He was the masterpiece of the angelic world, a flawless mirror designed to reflect the infinite glory of his Creator. God had not created evil. God had created a vessel for his own light, and it was perfect. For uncounted ages, this perfection held. Lucifer fulfilled his purpose with a joy that was as boundless as the heavens. He led the choirs in their eternal praise, his voice the keystone in an arch of adoration. He loved his Creator, and he knew he was loved in return. But then, something happened. It was not a sudden cataclysm. It was not a thunderous event. It was quieter, subtler, and infinitely more dangerous. It was a thought, a single dissonant note in the flawless symphony. It began in a moment of self-contemplation. As Lucifer soared through the cosmos, he saw his own glorious reflection in the great expanse of newly formed galaxies. He saw the light that emanated from him, the trail of stellar dust that followed in his wake, the awe in the eyes of the lesser angels who paused in their duties to watch him pass. And for the first time, the glory he witnessed did not immediately point his heart back to its source. Instead, a new feeling flickered within him, a strange and intoxicating warmth. It was pride. At first, it was a whisper, a subtle question. Is this light not mine? Is this beauty not my own? He had always understood himself as a reflection, but a mirror, if it gazes at itself long enough, can forget the object it reflects. The gift, once received with gratitude, began to feel like an inherent possession. The beauty that was meant to inspire worship for God began to inspire a nascent worship of the self. This was the seed of ruin, planted in the most fertile soil imaginable. The whisper grew, his hunger for glory, once satisfied by serving God, began to turn inward. It was no longer enough to be the morning star heralding the dawn. He began to believe he was the dawn. The light he bore was no longer a symbol of God's presence, but a testament to his own magnificence. Where there had been pure, radiant light, a shadow now began to spread from within, a darkness born not of absence, but of a light that had turned upon itself. The change was subtle to the other angels at first. A new edge to his voice, a hint of command where there was once only joyful leadership. An angel named Lyra, whose purpose was to weave the harmonies of praise, felt it most keenly. The perfect chord of heaven now had a tremor, a vibration that was almost imperceptible, yet deeply unsettling. She saw Lucifer instructing younger angels not just on how to serve the Creator, but on how to achieve a glory like his own. The ambition, once unchecked, became a roaring fire. It was no longer enough to serve and worship God. He yearned to be worshipped himself. The thought crystallized into a defiant declaration, a secret vow made in the depths of his own corrupted heart. I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the Mount of Assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. He no longer sought to reflect God's glory. He craved his own. The balance of creation, predicated on the worship of the Creator by the created, was shattered. Lucifer, the light-bearer, ceased to be a servant and became a rebel. And he knew he could not act alone. His charisma, his wisdom, his authority, the very gifts God had given him, were now turned into weapons of sedition. He moved through the heavenly courts, not as a tyrant, but as a revolutionary, a liberator. He spoke to the other angels, his words like poisoned honey. He spoke of untapped potential, of a freedom they had never known. Why should we only be reflections, he argued. Are we not beings of light and power in our own right? The Creator has given us magnificence, yet he asks us to perpetually turn it back to him. Is that love, or is it a form of eternal servitude? Follow me, and we will not just serve glory. We will be glory. His arguments were insidious, appealing to the pride that could lie dormant in any created being. He offered them thrones instead of service, power instead of praise, and many listened. The allure was too great. 1/3 of the heavenly host, beings of light and fire created for worship, turned their eyes from their Creator and fixed them upon the morning star. They chose to follow the rebel, and thus the great rebellion began. The perfect harmony of heaven was broken, replaced by the clamor of war. A war not of flesh and blood, but of spirit and will, a schism that would tear the fabric of eternity and set the stage for all the sorrows that would follow. The rebellion that tore through heaven was not symbolic. It was a real, spiritual, and final schism. The very atmosphere of the celestial realm, once vibrating with pure adoration, now thrummed with the tension of divided loyalties. Legions of angels, who for eons had moved in perfect synchrony, now faced one another, their radiant forms dimmed by the shadow of conflict. It was a sight of cosmic tragedy, brother against brother, light against light. But it is here, at the very heart of this heavenly conflict, that one of humanity's most persistent and dangerous misconceptions was born. We have been conditioned by our myths, our stories, our philosophies, to see the universe as a grand chessboard, an eternal struggle between two equal and opposing forces, good versus evil, light versus darkness, God versus Satan. We picture a cosmic scale, precariously balanced, where the fate of all creation hangs in the balance, dependent on the outcome of a war between two titans. We imagine a God who must fight, who must struggle, who could, in some dreadful possibility, lose. But let me share a truth that the Bible makes devastatingly clear. God has no rival. There is no cosmic dualism. There is no being, neither in the heavens above nor on the earth below, who can stand as an equal to the Creator of all that is. The image of a protracted war between God and Satan, a struggle of matched power, is a human invention, a distortion born from our need to comprehend conflict in terms we understand. It is a narrative that elevates the creature to the level of the Creator, and in doing so, diminishes the absolute sovereignty of God. Satan is not the dark side of a universal force that balances the light. He is not the necessary evil in a cosmic equation. He is a created being, and no creature, no matter how magnificent, how powerful, or how wise, can ever be a true rival to its creator. The moment Lucifer chose rebellion, he did not become God's adversary in a battle to be won. He became a traitor, an enemy already defeated from the instant he turned his heart away from the source of all life and power. His fate was sealed not by the outcome of a war, but by the nature of his choice. The war in heaven, therefore, was not a battle for supremacy. It was an act of divine judgment, a necessary and sorrowful eviction. The account is sealed and recorded for all time in the book of Revelation. And there was war in heaven. Lucifer did not come alone. He advanced with his army, a third of the stars of heaven swept from their orbits by the sheer force of his charismatic deceit. These were angels of immense power and intellect, the seraphim, with their burning love now turned to burning rage. The thrones, once symbols of God's justice, now instruments of rebellion. They formed ranks behind their new master, their combined light, a terrifying, cold nova of defiance. They believed in their cause. They believed in their leader. They believed they were fighting for their own freedom, their own glory. But standing firm against this tide of rebellion was the unshakable defender of the kingdom. Not God himself, for the Creator does not need to stoop to battle his own creation, but his chosen champion, Michael, the archangel. His name is a question and a battle cry in one: who is like God? It was the ultimate rebuke to Lucifer's arrogant claim. Michael, the warrior of faithfulness, commander of God's armies, and guardian of the holy ones. He did not stand alone either. As the rebel host advanced, Michael rose, his sword not forged of metal, but of pure, concentrated divine will, a blade of holy fire. With a voice that was both a trumpet blast and a calming assurance, he summoned the loyal heavenly hosts. "Who is like God?" he cried. And the response came like rolling thunder from 2/3 of the angels of heaven. "There is none like God." Legions of faithful angels, their loyalty untainted, their love for their Creator a burning shield, fell into formation behind their commander. An angel named Gabriel, the great messenger, stood at Michael's right, his presence a testament to unwavering truth. On his left stood Raphael, the healer, his purpose now to defend the sanctity of the realm he was created to mend. This was not a battle of ambition versus ambition. It was a battle of loyalty versus treason. The clash was titanic, a storm of spirit and will that shook the foundations of the celestial realm. The rebels fought with the fury of desperation, their attacks fueled by pride and a desire to prove their leader's promise of power. Lucifer himself was at the forefront, a whirlwind of corrupted light, his every move a masterpiece of combat. He was brilliant, he was powerful, he was magnificent, even in his fall. But he was fighting against a power sourced not from the self, but from the infinite. Michael and the loyal angels fought not with their own strength, but as conduits of God's perfect will. Their strength was inexhaustible because its source was inexhaustible. Every blow they struck was not just an act of war, but an act of worship, a declaration of truth. The question, "Who is like God?" was answered with every parry, every charge, every steadfast stand. The result was never in doubt. The scripture is final and absolute, but they were not strong enough, and they lost their place in heaven. The rebels' strength, born of ego, began to wane. Their brilliant light flickered, turning from a radiant glow to a feverish, angry burn. The lies that had fueled their rebellion could not sustain them against the unyielding force of divine truth. They were overwhelmed, defeated, not by a greater force of arms, but by a greater reality. And the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was cast out to the earth, and his angels with him. Lucifer, the morning star, fell. He was stripped of his name, his position, his glory. He plunged from the heights of heaven like a bolt of lightning, his new name Satan, the accuser, the adversary trailing behind him like a shroud. With him fell all who had chosen his path, their celestial light extinguished, replaced by a consuming darkness. They were cast out from the presence of God, exiled from the realm of light they were created for. Notice the profound detail in this cosmic event. God did not step onto the battlefield. God did not raise his hand. His will was executed by his loyal servants. This reveals a staggering truth. God doesn't even need to make a move to defeat his greatest enemy. The very system of reality he created is designed to reject that which opposes him. Satan's rebellion was not a threat to God's throne. It was an act of cosmic self-destruction. Their initial judgment was not annihilation. It was exile. Cast out from the heavenly kingdom, their new domain became the earth. And here, in this new battlefield, their mission would change. No longer fighting for a throne they could never win, they would now turn their bitter, defeated rage upon God's most beloved new creation, humanity. With their cataclysmic fall, Lucifer, now Satan, and his legions of rebellious angels were not obliterated. They were displaced. The war for heaven was over, but a new, more insidious war was about to begin. The battlefield had shifted from the celestial courts to the fledgling world of humanity. And with this shift came a new hierarchy of evil, a structured and organized darkness that we must understand if we are to grasp why they were not immediately destroyed. We often use terms like Satan, demons, and fallen angels interchangeably, as if they are all the same entity. But the scriptures draw subtle yet crucial distinctions between them, revealing a complex spiritual ecosystem of malevolence. Understanding this structure is key to understanding God's patient, unfolding plan. Who, precisely, are the fallen angels? These are the beings who once stood in the very presence of God. They were the 1/3 of the heavenly host who listened to Lucifer's seductive whispers and joined his rebellion. They were angels of rank and purpose, beings of immense intelligence, power, and knowledge. When they fell, they did not lose their fundamental nature as spiritual beings. They retained their intellect, their strategic abilities, and their memory of the divine realities they had forsaken. What they lost was their place, their connection to the source of pure light and life. Imagine a brilliant general stripped of his commission and exiled from his homeland. He still possesses all his military genius, his knowledge of strategy, and his ability to command. He is no less dangerous. In fact, his bitterness and loss may make him even more so. This is the state of the fallen angels. They are not mindless monsters. They are organized. They are structured. The Apostle Paul lays this out with chilling clarity when he warns us, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." These rulers, authorities, and powers are the fallen angels. They have a hierarchy, a chain of command, with Satan at its pinnacle. They are not wandering aimlessly. They operate with purpose and deliberation. Their goal is not merely to cause random chaos, but to influence and corrupt the very systems of the world governments, cultures, philosophies, and institutions. They are the master puppeteers, working behind the curtains of human history, whispering their ancient lies into the ears of kings and shaping the ideologies that enslave nations. Their battle is strategic, aimed at the structures of human society. But then, who are the demons? The Bible is less explicit about their precise origin, which has led to much theological debate. However, their nature and behavior are made abundantly clear. Demons are described as unclean spirits. A key distinction is their desperate, ceaseless need for a host. They are disembodied. Whether they are the spirits of a pre-Adamic race or another class of fallen being, one thing is certain: they crave physicality. They seek to inhabit a body to operate and manifest their will on the physical plane. We see this vividly in the Gospels. In the region of the Gerasenes, Jesus confronts a man possessed not by one, but by a legion of these entities. When Jesus commands them to leave, their terror is palpable. They beg him, "Do not send us into the abyss." The abyss represents a place of disembodied imprisonment, a state of utter powerlessness for them. Their desperation is so great that they plead to be allowed to enter a herd of pigs rather than face that void. This encounter reveals their fundamental nature. They roam, they seek, they possess. While fallen angels influence systems from a distance, demons engage in a more intimate, parasitic form of warfare, targeting individual human lives. This brings us to the first reason why God did not simply destroy them. We must grasp a crucial, non-negotiable principle of God's creation. Spirits are not subject to death in the same way physical bodies are. Jesus himself declared, "God is spirit." When God created angels, he made them as eternal spiritual beings. They do not have flesh and blood, lungs that breathe air, or hearts that beat. Their existence is not tied to the biological processes of life and decay that govern our world. Therefore, they cannot be killed or destroyed in the way a human being can. You cannot end a spirit's existence with a physical weapon or a simple cessation of biological function. Their destruction is not a matter of ending a life, but of a final, judicial sentencing to a place of eternal consequence, a place the Bible calls the lake of fire. And this leads to the deeper truth. God is perfectly just. His justice is not a reflection of human emotion. It is not vengeful, impulsive, or reactive. It is a fundamental, unchanging attribute of his very character. And in his flawless system of justice, no sentence is carried out without a formal judgment. The time for Satan and his followers simply hasn't come yet. They have not yet stood before the great white throne to face their final, public sentencing. Think of it in human terms. However imperfect the analogy, a notorious criminal may be caught, his guilt obvious to all. We know he is responsible for his crimes, yet our own systems of justice demand a trial. Evidence must be presented, a verdict must be rendered by a judge, and a sentence must be formally declared. This process isn't just about punishment, it's a public affirmation of the law. It reinforces the standard of justice for the whole community and demonstrates that no one is above it. God's cosmic court operates on an infinitely higher and more perfect level. The final judgment is not for God's benefit. He needs no convincing of their guilt. The evidence is overwhelming. The judgment is for the benefit of all creation. It is a public declaration of truth, a final, unanswerable demonstration of God's perfect righteousness and justice before the entire universe, every angel, every human soul, every being that has ever existed. It is the day when every hidden thing will be brought to light and every account will be settled. On that day, no one, not even Satan, will be able to claim they were treated unfairly, that they never had their day in court, or that their sentence was the whim of a tyrant. That day of judgment hasn't arrived yet, but it is written, it is appointed, and it will surely come. God, in his infinite wisdom, has allowed them to remain active for a time, within the limits he sets until that designated day. And in the meantime, their continued existence serves a purpose within a plan so vast, we can only begin to comprehend its edges. They are on a leash, a very long one, but a leash nonetheless. We see this in the story of Job. Satan could not touch him, not a hair on his head or a penny of his wealth, without first petitioning God for permission. And even when that permission was granted, God set the precise boundary. You can do all this, but you must not lay a hand on the man himself. This is not a battle between equals. This is a display of absolute authority. God's patience is not weakness. It is the deliberate, measured unfolding of a perfect, eternal justice. We have explored the nature of spiritual beings and the necessity of a final, public judgment. But this leads us to an even more profound and difficult question, one that strikes at the very heart of our relationship with God. If God, in his omniscience, already knew that Lucifer would rebel, why did he create him in the first place? If he knew this beautiful, perfect being would unleash such unimaginable suffering upon creation, why bring him into existence at all? The answer lies in a concept that God values more than perfect, forced obedience. It is a gift He wove into the very fabric of His sentient creatures, from the highest archangel to the humblest human soul. It is a gift that is both glorious and terrifying, the source of our greatest love and our deepest sorrows. It is the freedom to choose, free will. This is not some minor theological footnote. It is the cornerstone of God's entire design for a relationship with His creation. God did not create a universe of machines. He did not design us as puppets, dancing on celestial strings, every action and thought pre-programmed. His angels were not created as robots, hardwired for eternal praise, without the capacity for any other response. To do so would have been simple. It would have guaranteed a universe free of rebellion, free of sin, free of pain. But it would also have been a universe free of love. Because love, by its very nature, cannot be forced. It cannot be demanded, programmed, or coerced. True love is a voluntary surrender, a conscious decision to give of oneself to another. It can only exist where the option to not love also exists. If God had created beings incapable of choosing anything but obedience, He would not be a father receiving the genuine adoration of His children. He would be a dictator, surrounded by the hollow, meaningless praise of automatons. He desired a real relationship built on the authentic, freely given affection of beings who chose to love Him, who chose to serve Him, from a heart filled with genuine devotion. And so, when He created the angels, He gave them free will. When He fashioned humanity from the dust of the earth and breathed into them the breath of life, He gave them the same perilous gift. He planted the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden as a tangible symbol of this choice. It was not a trap. It was an affirmation of their freedom. He was saying, "All of this is yours. My love, my presence, this paradise. I desire your fellowship, but you must choose it. You must choose me." Yes, this meant risking everything. It meant risking that some would choose to walk away. It meant risking the heartbreak of rejection. Satan did exactly that. He took the glorious gift of free will and used it to author his own damnation. And countless human souls have followed his example since. But this terrible outcome does not negate the value of the gift. God did not revoke free will from the universe after Satan's fall, because even with the existence of rebellion, it remains the only possible path to genuine love. Ask yourself this: what worth would your faith have if you were incapable of doubt? What virtue would your obedience hold if you had no capacity to disobey? What meaning would your love for God possess if you had no alternative but to offer it? It is the struggle, the decision, the conscious turning of your heart towards God in a world that pulls you in 1,000 other directions that gives your love its profound value. God does not desire followers who obey out of obligation. He longs for sons and daughters who love Him freely, by choice, because they have seen His goodness and desire Him above all else. This is why judgment has not yet fallen in its finality. Until the very last moment of the age, God is giving creation the space to decide. He waits because love is patient. He endures the rebellion of His creatures because true love can only blossom in the soil where the weed of rejection is also allowed to grow. Now, imagine this scenario. God grants free will to His created beings. The moment one of them, Lucifer, uses that freedom to choose rebellion, God immediately annihilates him. He erases him from existence. What message would that send to the rest of creation? To the loyal angels? To the yet uncreated human race? It would be a message of terror. It would effectively cancel out the very liberty that God Himself had granted. The unspoken rule of the universe would become, "You are free to choose, but if you do not choose what I want, you will be instantly and utterly destroyed." That is not real freedom. That is manipulation disguised as choice. It is coercion of the highest order. The rest of creation would not learn a lesson about the ugliness of sin. They would learn a lesson about the terrifying, instantaneous consequence of displeasing an all-powerful ruler. Their subsequent obedience would not spring from a heart of love and loyalty, but from a mind paralyzed by fear. This is where many of us stumble. We expect God to behave like a human ruler, to respond with the kind of instant, overwhelming force we might use if we had the power. Quick punishment, immediate justice, problem solved. But God's ways are not our ways. His justice is not impulsive. His holiness does not respond in desperation. God does not punish on a whim. He judges with eternal purpose. He did not destroy Satan or the angels who rebelled, because doing so would have invalidated the very principle he was trying to establish. It would have sacrificed the possibility of true love for the certainty of fearful obedience. God respects the choices of his creatures, even the choices that grieve his heart and bring chaos into his creation. This does not mean he approves of them. It simply means he remains faithful to his own divine character and his original design. This is one of the hardest mysteries for us to grasp. The freedom God grants is so absolute that it can lead to cosmic treason and untold suffering. Yet still, he continues to grant it. He grants it to you and to me every single day. He does this because his ultimate goal is not to control you. His goal is to transform you. And true transformation can only happen when you choose him not out of fear of destruction, but out of a heartfelt conviction that he alone is worthy of your love. An immediate annihilation of Satan would have produced a silent, fearful heaven. God desires a joyful, loving one, filled with children redeemed by grace, not slaves silenced by terror. We have journeyed through the necessity of divine justice and the profound implications of free will. Yet, there remains an even more startling and complex layer to this divine patience. It is an idea that may seem difficult, even paradoxical, at first glance. But when seen through the lens of Scripture and spiritual wisdom, a profound truth emerges. Could it be that Satan, in the very midst of his rebellion, his hatred, and his unceasing efforts to thwart the divine will, is still, in some mysterious way, fulfilling a purpose within God's greater plan? Let me be unequivocally clear. This does not mean God approves of Satan. It does not mean God created evil or that he is in league with his enemy. It means that God's sovereignty is so absolute, so complete, so all-encompassing, that he can take the enemy's most malicious intentions, the darkest arrows in his quiver, and weave them into the grand tapestry of his glorious, redemptive purpose. He can turn the very weapons forged for our destruction into instruments of our salvation. There is no greater example of this staggering truth than the life and ministry of Jesus Christ. From the very beginning of Jesus' public mission, Satan was there. He was not an ally, but an obstacle. Not a partner, but a test. Not a collaborator, but a refining fire. After his baptism, the scripture tells us something extraordinary. Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness specifically to be tempted by the devil. This was not an accident. It was not an unforeseen interruption in the plan. It was a divine appointment. For 40 days and 40 nights, in the desolate emptiness of the Judean desert, the Son of God, in his full humanity, faced the ancient accuser. Satan, the master of deceit, confronted him at his weakest physical point. First, he tempted Jesus' hunger. After fasting for 40 days, the pangs of starvation would have been excruciating. "If you are the Son of God," Satan hissed, "tell these stones to become bread." It was a temptation of provision, an appeal to use divine power for personal comfort, to bypass the path of suffering that lay ahead. But Jesus, weak in body but steadfast in spirit, responded not with a display of power, but with the power of the word. It is written, "Man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." Next, Satan tempted him with spectacle and pride. He took Jesus to the highest point of the temple and challenged him. "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, He will command His angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands." This was a temptation to force God's hand, to create a public marvel that would bypass the slow, humble work of ministry and win followers through sheer supernatural display. Again, Jesus stood firm. It is also written, "Do not put the Lord your God to the test." Finally, Satan offered him the ultimate worldly prize. He showed Jesus all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. "All this I will give you," he promised, "if you will bow down and worship me." This was the temptation of power, the offer of a shortcut. Satan was offering to give Jesus dominion over the world without the agony of the cross. He could have the crown without the thorns. It was the original temptation, the same lie he had believed himself, that glory could be seized rather than received. But Jesus' response was a thunderous command of divine authority. "Away from me, Satan, for it is written, 'Worship the Lord your God and serve him only.'" In that moment, Satan believed he was trying to derail God's plan. He thought he was weakening the Messiah, seeking a crack in his resolve. But in reality, he was doing the very opposite. He was validating Jesus' authority. He was proving, for all of heaven and earth to see, that here was a man, a son of man, who could not be broken by hunger, by pride, or by the allure of worldly power. He was confirming that this was indeed the spotless Lamb of God, the only one worthy to bear the sin of the world. To save us, Jesus had to live the perfect life we never could. By overcoming every temptation Satan threw at him, Jesus demonstrated his perfect obedience and sinless nature. The temptation in the wilderness wasn't a liability. It was a crucial part of his resume as our Redeemer. And this pattern continues to the very end of Jesus' earthly life. As the final act of the drama approached, Satan appears again. This time, he doesn't target Jesus directly, but finds a willing vessel in the heart of one of his own disciples. The Gospel of Luke tells us, "Then Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot, one of the 12. It was Satan who planted the seed of betrayal. It was Satan who watered it with greed and disillusionment. It was Satan who guided Judas's steps to the chief priests, who orchestrated the deal for 30 pieces of silver, who led the armed guard into the Garden of Gethsemane. From Satan's perspective, this was his checkmate. He was finally going to destroy the Son of God, to eliminate his nemesis once and for all. But here is the breathtaking irony. How could Jesus die for the sins of the world if no one betrayed him? How could the prophecies of the suffering servant be fulfilled without the kiss of a traitor? How could there be a cross without the conspiracy that led him there? And how could there be redemption for humanity without the cross? Once again, we see the absolute, mind-bending sovereignty of God. He took the enemy's darkest, most treacherous act, the betrayal of the son of God, and used it as the very mechanism to bring about the greatest act of love and salvation in the history of the universe. Satan, in his desperate attempt to destroy Jesus, became the unwitting instrument that pushed Jesus toward his ultimate victory at Calvary. This doesn't turn Satan into a hero or a faithful servant. It proves he is a defeated, ignorant enemy, bound by a plan so vast he cannot even comprehend how he is serving it. He is a pawn who thinks he is a king, moving exactly where the true king intends, all while believing it is his own move. This is the ultimate humiliation for the proudest being in creation. And here lies a profound lesson for every one of us. Nothing the enemy throws your way, not temptation, not betrayal, not sickness, not losses, outside the grasp of God's sovereign plan. The pain is real, the wounds are deep, but they are not final. God can redeem anything. He can use everything. In those moments when you have cried out, "Where are you, God?" He was right there, taking the very thing that was meant to shatter you and weaving it into a story of redemption, a story you may not yet fully see. He is a master artist, and he uses both light and shadow to create his masterpiece. Through this journey, we have navigated the complexities of divine justice, the sacredness of free will, and the staggering sovereignty of God. But there is one final, essential element that underpins all of these truths. It is a word that echoes from Genesis to Revelation, a word that defines the very essence of God's character more than his power, his judgment, or even the heavens themselves. That word is love. Jesus, the master storyteller, illustrated this divine love most beautifully in one of his most moving parables, the story of the prodigal son. A father had two sons. The younger, filled with restless ambition, demanded his inheritance early. He took his fortune and traveled to a distant country where he squandered it all in a life of wild abandon. A severe famine struck the land, and he found himself destitute, so hungry he longed to eat the pods the pigs were eating. He had hit rock bottom. In his despair, he came to his senses and decided to return home, not as a son, but hoping to be hired as a servant. But the story tells us that while he was still a long way off, his father saw him. The father wasn't waiting with a ledger of his son's debts. He wasn't preparing a lecture on responsibility. He was watching the horizon, and when he saw his son, a broken, shamed figure in the distance, he was filled with compassion. He ran to him, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. He didn't just welcome him back. He celebrated his return, clothing him in the best robe, putting a ring on his finger, and preparing a feast. This is a portrait of the heart of God. This parable raises a profound and speculative question. Was this same character of loving patience also shown toward the fallen angels? The scriptures do not tell us if repentance is possible for them. Their sin was of a different order, committed in the full light and knowledge of God's glory. But one thing is undeniably clear. God did not destroy them instantly, and that fact speaks volumes. If God's primary attribute were merely immediate, retributive justice, judgment would have been instantaneous and final, but it wasn't. The fallen angels were cast out, they were defeated, yet they were permitted to continue to exist. This can only mean that God, in his infinite nature, chose to wait. Was it an act of compassion? Was it a display of divine patience? Was it a flicker of that same love that waits for the prodigal? Perhaps it is a combination of all these things, a mystery too deep for us to fully fathom. God's love is not limited to those who perform well or who always obey. Jesus himself commanded us to reflect this divine character. Love your enemies, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. God does not automatically eliminate those who fail him, because his love isn't transactional. It is transformational. And sometimes transformation requires the crucible of time and the patience of a waiting Father. But let us make no mistake. This patience, this love, this waiting does not mean that judgment is cancelled. God is not indifferent to evil. He does not overlook rebellion. He does not leave accounts unsettled forever. The story of the prodigal son is about the Father's love, but it's precipitated by the son's choice to return. For those who choose to never return, who harden their hearts in eternal rebellion, there is an appointed end. The Bible is terrifyingly clear on this point. The Apostle Peter writes that God did not spare the angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, Tartarus, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment. They are reserved, not forgotten. They are bound for a final reckoning, not pardoned. God does not carry out a final sentence without first establishing the court. And that eternal courtroom is already prepared. The judge is Christ himself, and his verdict will be final and irrevocable. In Revelation chapter 20, the Apostle John is shown a vision that should shake us to our core. He sees a great white throne and him who was seated on it. The books are opened, and the dead, great and small, stand before God. Each person is judged according to what they had done. This day is not a metaphor. It is a divine promise, and it is a solemn warning. On that day, Satan, his angels, and all who have chosen darkness over light will face the righteous judgment of a holy God. The end of the enemy is described with chilling finality, and the devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of burning sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet had been thrown. They will be tormented day and night forever and ever. There will be no escape. There will be no appeal. The enemy who has caused so much division, death, and destruction will be publicly, eternally, and decisively defeated. But here is the final glorious truth that shifts the entire perspective. The end of the story is not merely punishment, it is restoration. God's ultimate plan is not just to destroy evil, but to create a new heaven and a new earth, a place where righteousness dwells. He seeks to cleanse what has been polluted, to mend what has been broken, and to heal what has been wounded. God's final judgment is an act of holy justice, the moment when everything crooked will be made straight and every knee will bow to the truth. So, after this long journey, we return to our original question: why is Satan still alive? We see now that God didn't destroy him immediately because he had a plan far greater than instant retribution, a plan that reveals his perfect justice, his profound respect for free will, his absolute sovereignty, and his unfathomable love. That plan is not yet finished, but its victory is not in doubt. We are not waiting to see if God wins. The decisive battle has already been fought and won. At the cross, Jesus Christ did not just conquer sin and death. He disarmed the powers and authorities, making a public spectacle of them, triumphing over them by the cross. Satan has already been overcome. He is a defeated foe, a king without a kingdom, simply awaiting the public announcement of his final sentence. The world may seem dark, evil may appear powerful, but it is all temporary. None of it changes the final outcome. Christ reigns. His throne has never wavered. His promise has never failed. And if you are in him, you are a partaker in that victory. You are not a spectator in a cosmic war. You are an heir to the triumphant King, a child of God, a member of the body of Christ that stands firm as the enemy falls. Judgment will come. Restoration will be complete, and God's kingdom will be established forever, and he will wipe every tear from our eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things will have passed away, because what God began, he will finish, and he will finish it in victory. Amen.